Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another Alignment Happy Hour segment. I'm Nova Whiteman, and I have a very, very special, dear to my heart guest today that is going to absolutely rock your world. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about the vibration in your relationship to money and how to actually get it to work in your favor and be a good one. And she is the master of this. Please welcome Morgana Rae to the show. Welcome, Morgana.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm just happy to see you again, Nova.
Yes. So a little backstory. Morgana was one of my very first mentors when I entered the coaching industry. I was fresh off certification and kind of listless, not really knowing what to do. I didn't know how to start a business or run a business. I just knew how to coach and trust my intuition to a certain degree. And lo and behold, this magical creature comes across my path. I don't even remember how, but it was one of those things where it was like I got pulled in. And at the time, you were offering a training. You were training financial alchemy coaches, which financial alchemy is your bread and butter. And I took your training, fell in love with you, and in love with myself and in love with money, and had just a wonderful experience. And we were just chatting prior to hitting the record button and just saying how, even though we don't talk, you know how it is. You have people in your life you don't talk to regularly, but when you do, it's like that connection never faltered. And we live in each other's hearts. So I'm just so, so happy to be here with you right now.
Feels the same for me too.
Well, I want to give everybody just a little bit of a background about who you are and the work that you do, because that's always helpful when you're listening to somebody speak. So Morgana Rae is an international best-selling author and seven-figure spiritual life and business coach for close to 30 years. It's a long time. A popular guest expert on the Wall Street Journal, Coast to Coast Radio, and all the major television networks, Morgana guides entrepreneurs, innovators, healers, and humanitarians to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money, to save the world as only they can. And there's a bit about the last part I'm going to share a little bit later about your adventures in love. But that's really what I want to dive into today for everybody, because as you know, and as everyone who has watched this particular show knows, this is all just about helping us be a more conscious, aligned human. Like if you're drawn to a channel like this, then you know you're a spiritual being having a human experience. And there's no shortage of people out there, teachers, who are kind of pushing that whole positive thinking, like law of attraction, just be happy all the time and you'll be fine thing, which is helpful and it has its part, but it usually causes us to come crashing down because we all meet our human side. We all have negative thoughts, experiences, and emotions. And you were one of those people, you were among the very first to really help make that clear to me that you cannot step over that part, especially when it comes to money. I can't just think positive my way to a successful coaching career. So, for those that don't know you and your work, would you mind sharing a little bit about how you do that or how you teach that with your financial, or what it's about?
Yeah, honestly, it's not even about money. Money is just a very nice side effect of the work. So I will talk a lot about relationship with money, but it's honestly behind the scenes, it's truly code for your relationship with life. And I find it useful to call it money because money is an area of life that really, really needs our love and our healing, because it gets in the way of everything to get our attention. So it's a great spiritual teacher because it does get your attention. I believe that life, the universe, whatever you cosmic ooze, whatever you want to call this system that we live in, I believe that it gets our attention for our evolution through primarily three areas, what I would call three spiritual teachers, which are money, love, and health. Mm-hmm. And any of them will get our attention really loudly at their time. But the thing about money is I think money will get your attention the fastest, because you can I did. You can live a very long time with your soulmate. You can live a very long time with various physical ailments. It's very hard to live any amount of time without money, without it being really in your face. Also, money is the number one excuse that, in my experience, coaching tens of thousands of people now, that the number one excuse human beings give for what we can't have, do, or be. Mm-hmm. So how I got into doing what I do and teaching what I do is because I failed so spectacularly at everybody else's stuff. So by the way, if the positive thinking, high vibes only works for you, lucky you, go ahead, do what works for you. You can turn this off right now. It's you, but also law of attraction people love me. And I'm friends with half the people in The Secret. So I know what really goes on in everybody's life. For me, where I have a challenge with the way I see law of attraction being either taught or understood or utilized is it's almost a fear of having bad, despairing, angry, hurt victim feelings. Like you will be punished. This bad thing will happen to you because of your low vibration. And that creates such fear. And that is not helpful at all for manifesting what you want. I also just have a really fundamental belief that it's more useful to make friends with the ick and the victim experience and whatever trauma you've had, not in that, yay, let's live here, everybody come over to my house and let's really trauma out. No, but you've been through stuff. Some of you have been through really, really big stuff that we do not need you to go on that ride ever again. But since you've already been through it, wouldn't it be great if we could use it so that it wasn't a waste and that maybe it was the most valuable thing that ever happened to you, and it's the key that unlocks everything you ever wanted. Your biggest failure, your biggest despair, your biggest heartbreak, your biggest whatever. What if we got to use it instead of make it wrong or bad or punishment or your failure? What if it gets to be a door, a portal into the love and the power and the magic that you pretty much came to earth in this flesh suit to unleash. And that was just part of the process to give you what you needed for your work in the world. I like to say victim experience, and I'm not even teaching you my stuff yet, but I believe victim experiences are sacred or they wouldn't exist. They can be a source of tremendous power. So I don't pursue them. I find them horrible and icky, and they're part of the life experience. So my approach, I call it alchemy. I also went off to an East Coast college and got a fancy degree in religion that freaked my father out, and now I use it all the time.
Right.
So alchemy goes back thousands of years. And if we were to boil it down to its basic essence, it is the transmutation of lead, as in lead in human experience, into gold, spiritual and material gold. So every leaden, horrible thing that has ever happened in your life experience, especially the personal stuff. And if you're looking at stuff going on in the world and that is waking you up at night, we're going to throw that into. We're going to use all of it. And the more easy access you have in this very moment to grief, fear, anxiety, wrongness, any of that stuff, actually give you a competitive advantage. It will make the process easier. Yay, you. There is nothing harder for me to coach than somebody goes, yeah, I have a fine relationship with money. I just want to make more. there's no leverage there. It's like digging through concrete, with a shovel. It's really hard. But if you're already in the pain, your neurology is already lit up, and you are the easiest person to create a rapid transformational breakthrough. By the way, one of my clients is a neuroscientist, so she sends me clippings all the time to prove why my process works from a scientific standpoint. So
Amazing.
I assume I'm talking to the woo crowd here. Yay. And if there's a skeptic, just tune out the woo and stick with the science, and you'll be good too. So I think I answered your question, right?
You did. And I want to thank you. I want to emphasize a really important point because I've been in this business for about 15 years now, and I've seen the gamut of teachers, coaches, healers, who claim to be really good at the transformational work. And this isn't to knock. There are plenty of really great people out there, but there are plenty of really if they're not fraudulent, then they're not super thorough in their training and experience themselves, their own deep reflective work. But one thing that really stood out to me was, you didn't you didn't do the spiritual bypass thing. That caught my attention. And you were able to take what you just said about the most alchemical part of the process, where, yeah, you got to dive into the shit. You have to get in there and face all that shadowy, scary monster stuff, which we'll get to, and be in it. You have to feel it. You can't just talk about it. And that, but I think that there's such a level of, well, giftedness and perspective and perceptivity that you have to guide somebody through something like that, because we can say there's a gift in every hardship, there's an opportunity in everything bad that's ever happened to you, but there is a fine line of maybe it's not spiritual bypassing, but it's tricky territory. And the way that you have moved myself as well as countless others through that is, like you said, you're kind of like make friends with it, but it's, in my language, I would say, lower the resistance. It happened, and now
That's
let's use
that's a better language. Yeah, I don't script anything, so words just come out of my mouth. But lower the resistance, I would even go even farther, is ultimately my end game is to create safety.
Yes.
I believe change happens at the speed of safety, which means if change isn't happening, there's a very good reason, and it isn't safe, and it has to be safe to change first.
Mm-hmm.
I have a capacity to go into deeper, darker places than most people can or should.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have like one specific talent besides intuition and skills and all that kind of other stuff, but really is I have a capacity to keep my clients safe while we go into deeper and deeper layers until we get deep enough.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to get all of it. And you also do not need to harm yourself or re-traumatize yourself. That's really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
If you do this on your own without a coach like Nova or me, if you, and I have my book, if you do my book, what I do recommend when you go through the monster process is it can be very helpful to have a human being there with you holding the space, who will not say anything. This is really, really, really important, because if somebody is not trained in this, and this is why I don't train it anymore, it's just way too hard to train other coaches. Like, you were of the half that passed, but half never passed. Having a loving, non-judgmental human body in, on the other end of the phone or in the room with you who will just be a witness and not say anything that will minimize it or throw you off track or distract you or hurt the flow of the process because they don't know what they're doing, then I find that you can actually guide yourself deeper, more safely than if you're by yourself and you're afraid of getting lost. And it's almost like the presence of another human being is like a safety line to bring you back to the world. This is stuff that I probably didn't say 15 years ago or 10 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago, that just, we learn from our clients and coaching and coaching and coaching and coaching. That's actually why I rewrote my book, is because the book that I wrote and came out with 10 years ago has a gazillion reviews, tons of success stories, even bigger success stories that aren't on Amazon. And I opened the book and I went, ouch, that doesn't sound like me anymore. And it's missing stuff. And I have to clean it up. Mm-hmm. So here's a good excuse. It's 10 years. Why don't I come up with a 10-year anniversary new edition?
Yes, which is why it was perfect timing to have you on this show. So Morgana wrote a workbook based on her financial alchemy process, and it is called Financial Alchemy: 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. So to me, you're like the queen of magic and manifestation. Is your business still called Charmed Life Coaching?
Charmed Life Coaching Incorporated, because I'm a grown-up now.
Because you're a grown-up. Awesome. But that is such a great way of describing your energy, or the energy that I feel. Like, I walked into that hotel training area in LA that year, all those years ago, and I felt like I was meeting this fairy, like wood sprite, yet high priestess, magical, powerful being. So what's beautiful about that is because, and also using the word alchemy and the actual nature of an alchemical transformation, by diving into, taking that lead and then going through a process that turns it into spiritual gold, and guiding people through the way that you did, or that you just described rather, that is where that transformation, it can't be faked. It can't be forced. I remember being so shocked that you were wanting me to actually feel my pain. Whereas, back then, fresh out of coaching, not that, they do teach you that in coaching, but it is something that is, nobody wants to go there. That's hard. It's, not my favorite place to go, but oh my God, the transformation that occurs is incredible. So one part that I really wanted us to focus on today, if you don't mind, is that, like, because I come across, my focus in my own coaching practice has shifted and grown and evolved and changed over the years. But what I've consistently come across is money and love are the two biggest issues. Like, they're usually 99.9% of the time the reason why somebody reaches out to me. And B, it is that lack of willingness, or that unwillingness, to go into the negativity, into the shadow, into the darkness. And they would think that they can just, keep on trucking and think positive their whole way there. Most people don't even realize they have a relationship with money. They have a vibrational relationship with money. And I think one of your brilliant ways is to personify that relationship.
Yeah. First of all, because you brought up money and love, mm-hmm. I believe all money issues are love issues. Mm-hmm. And the reason we're so weird about money is not because of money. Money is some totally random made up thing that we invented because we used to trade blocks of tea or animal skins or other stuff. We invented money. We're so weird about money, and more weird about money than sex or anything in the world. Like, people will talk about their sex lives full voice in a supermarket on their phone, right?
Mhm.
Because I've heard it. But people get very cagey about how much they make, either flaunting it or hiding it. And the reason we're so weird about money is because not money itself, it's what money represents, which also, by the way, is why changing your money story changes your money story, but it doesn't change your circumstances. It doesn't change anything because money isn't real, but what money represents is very real. And money represents love. And are you loved? Are you lovable? It represents value. Are you valued? Are you worthy? What are you worth? Deep existential questions. It represents safety. Are you safe? Is the world a safe place? Are you wanted in this world? And ultimately, power. Are you powerless or are you powerful? And money is sort of a measure and a mirror of all those things. So any wound you've ever had in your life, anything that ever made you feel unloved, unworthy, unsafe, or powerless is going to show up in your relationship with money problems. It'll show up elsewhere also, but the reason I focus on money is because this is what nobody else brings to the money problem, which is the real root cause is always love, worth, safety, and power. And you can't change your relationship with money without taking on those issues. So we can start with money stories and money circumstances and your reasons and blah, 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 blah. And some of them are very dramatic, compelling stories. Yay. Mm-hmm. And I've never, ever found the root cause there. It's the sooner we can get off of money itself and go into what was money before you knew what money was, which is like your parents were your first experience of money because they told you if you were loved, if you were valued, if you were safe, if you were powerful or powerless. They were the first experience. But then there were kids and teachers and lovers and bosses and business partners and life experiences and accidents and illnesses, maybe violence, maybe things in the world, maybe family history of genocide that just closes in and makes the world a less safe and less friendly place. And that shows up in money because there's nothing better in the world to personify the monstrosity of human existence than money and all the terrible things that people do for money. And if you're a do-gooder, you're extra sensitive to that stuff. You do not want to be the sociopath. You do not want to cause harm. So you push money away as if it's a big, scary monster and you have no idea why that's what you're doing. Because if you did, you would have fixed it. So it's not your fault. And my reason for being here is to make you aware of it so that you can respond to it, so that you can change it. One of my teachers a gazillion years ago said, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Mm-hmm. That's Christopher Howard said that. Maybe he made it up, maybe he got it from somebody else, but I love that. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility because it gives you the ability to respond. Yeah. So I make money, the monster, a person. First, we dig for the root cause. It's a 6-step process, and I'll try to get my fingers to correspond to the correct step.
Coordination is hard.
Right. You know, talking and fingers at the same time. I can gesticulate a lot, but okay. So step number 1 is uncover the root cause. And punchline is it's not going to be what you expect. People come back to me years later to go even deeper, and it's still like even bigger, even deeper, still not what they were expecting. I had a client, Anna Gottman, who I coached privately years ago, and then she came to Mexico last year for my Money Goddess retreat, or 2 years ago, 2021. And that was one of the hardest sessions I've ever had. It took us hours. 7 or 8 hours total, really. That's not how it usually is. But, you know, it is whatever it takes for that person to get the breakthrough that that person needs. And I will outlast any monster. Yeah. But she, you know, it was another layer after layer of love monsters, not just money monsters. But the punchline is it's all the same thing. And she made $1.2 million in the following 4 months.
Wow.
I like to drop that in there because we can talk about all this theoretical woo stuff, but I've got Anna, I've got Perry, who made over $12 million in 3 years. It's unfair to go for the big numbers. I just can remember them more easily. But it's there's lots of it on my website. Don't ever count on me to remember anything. So, except how to coach. So uncover the root cause is step number 1, which is never actually going to be about money. It's what money represents. Step 2, this is where it gets really weird, is imagine that the root cause is a person. Really, really, really important. Otherwise, you and I can spend 30 hours having a very fascinating conversation about limiting beliefs and negative money beliefs and positive money beliefs and all sorts of theoretical abstract shit. And it'll be fascinating and nothing will change. Mm-hmm. But when you make everything that's wrong in life and your life experience, and you put it into a person, a single person, an imaginary person, not your parents, not you. I'll explain that in a minute. It can be a famous person, but not somebody in your life. And it feels real and it feels personal. That's when it actually stops being some abstract concept, intellectual masturbation, and it actually becomes a real relationship. Because you already have that relationship subconsciously. And what we're doing is we're teasing it out into the light so that you can see your subconscious consciously. Yeah. And see what needs to go so that you can make a change. Remember, I said change happens at the speed of safety. And if money is the monster who hurt you and told you that you're worthless and have no right to exist and punished you and persecuted you and made you hurt, and it's this person, this imaginary person who says those mean things to you, you take the meanest thing you've ever said to yourself and you put it in that person's mouth. You really want to be experiencing it full body. When it becomes a person, it gets a lot easier to get rid of because now it feels real, and because you have experience with people. And if you've ever ended a relationship, high five. That comes in handy. Although what I say now that I don't think I said back when we did the work 15, 14 years ago, I'm not sure, I could be wrong. But what I'm very clear on now is when it becomes time to get rid of the monster, which is step 3, you have a choice. Only one of you gets to survive, the monster or you, because the monster will kill you. Eventually, somehow, maybe by killing everybody you love in front of you, or stripping you of any desire to live, or making your life unlivable. But whatever, this monster is a real danger, even if it's imaginary. To your subconscious, which is 99% of you, it is real. And it is a real reason to push money away. Either you by not making enough, or making it and getting rid of it. I have coached a billionaire. I have coached many millionaires, and I've coached clients couch surfing and living on public assistance. The process is the same. The root cause, different flavors for different people, but the root cause is essentially, are you lovable? Are you worthy? Are you safe? Are you powerful? Mm-hmm. And it may look for the billionaire like money gets in the way of love or relationship, or it's not going to last, or there's a target on your back, or you're the bank and not love for you. Mm-hmm. Or the 100 millionaire, or different levels of millionaires, but just right wherever it is. And that's real pain. Mm-hmm. And a real reason to get rid of it. So wherever you on your journey, you want to have a great relationship with money so that you can move forward and be able to have money, doing what you love, honoring your values, getting to have great relationships and not needing to push it away. So step 3 is you get rid of the monster. And I like to put into it everything that you do not want to carry forward with you in your life experience. There's a real kind of Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the old folk watching like me. Thou shalt not pass, you're laying it down. So step number 3, I want you to annihilate the monster in the most violent way imaginable. Leave no bloody bits. The world is not big enough for the 2 of you.
Yeah.
So for us love and light people, especially the vegans, because I have a lot of vegan clients.
Yeah.
This can be really weird. What? Violent, bloody?
Oh, it was hard for me. I remember that. I was pretty resistant at first, but I definitely saw how that was important and necessary.
It's sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in India, we have Durga and Kali, annihilating ignorance, annihilating the demons.
Mm-hmm.
Our victim experience, which I said earlier, I believe is profoundly sacred. It's part of our life experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Byron Katie's loving what is. We can't change that it happened, so let's make it really, really useful.
Yeah.
And the victim experience can be very kind of heavy and damp and cold if we're going to give it physical sensations. But the slaying the monster has this kind of rising fire energy of just taking back your power, especially for women, and going, no, you cannot come after me. You cannot come after my children. You cannot come after what I love. I choose me. You do not get to exist in all that you represent, all the injustice in the world, all of the abuses. You no longer get to exist in my life experience. I reject you. And that's why we make it so technicolor dramatic. By whatever imaginary weapon you wish to choose. This is especially powerful for women because we're not raised. I think this generation of kids has a lot of warrior women role models, but I had Cinderella movies
Right.
and Disney princesses growing up. So that's step number 3. This is how we make it safe, is by eradicating the monster so that the monster doesn't get to mess with you ever again. I like to, suck up all bloody bits with some cosmic vacuum cleaner and melt it with sulfuric acid. I am not a violent person, really.
Right.
But it's really satisfying and empowering to bring that drama into it. And so now we move to the fun part, which is when you've annihilated and eradicated the monster and everything the monster is, and you want the monster to be as big and scary and horrible as possible and completely bad, which is why it cannot be you and it cannot be your parents, because no matter, and I've met clients, I've coached clients with really monstrous parents. I won't even say what they did. And yet we don't kill our parents, but we do kill the monster.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no inner conflict. Now, all that's left, when the monster is completely gone, all that's left is love.
Mm-hmm.
So the new relationship with money, I call it money, but it's really life, is going to feel like love. It's going to feel like love, not cash. It's going to feel like love. And the new person that I call the money honey is going to feel like the embodiment of love. So when the monster is gone, now you get to meet love. And we'll call love money. And by the way, a happy, nice side effect is if you've had horrible love relationships, family relationships, partner, all that kind of, this is going to completely change your relationship blueprint to no extra charge. And this is going to be your new life partner. This money honey is, this imaginary person is going to feel just as real. It's going to be human. Is going to feel like somebody who loves you and chooses you over anybody else in the world. That's the number one rule of this new relationship in this money honey. Safe and in love with you, and somebody that you want a relationship with. I have found from coaching so many people over so many years that a lover relationship tends to work best. So it's not money is Oprah, Gandhi, God, way up there, and you're a human being way down here. That doesn't empower you. That becomes just another disempowering monster. It's money is not a fairy that's going to just grant your wishes while you sit on the couch. No, this is instead what I love about a lover is lovers are equal and you have the power to break your partner's heart. In fact, you actually have the power because you have the body. So it doesn't have to be. And I put in that caveat because again, a lot of people have sexual trauma. And we don't need to put that pressure on you. So this is just somebody who you are thrilled to be in love with and be adored by. And the love is unconditional. You don't have to earn it. And you get to see yourself through the eyes of the beloved exactly as you are and see how gorgeous and brilliant and amazing you are without any change necessary. Very, very useful. You can see all of your quirks and foibles and weaknesses and how adorable they are. How cute and sweet it is, all of your fears and anxieties. And you can look at them with love and delight and compassion through the eyes of the beloved. And that's how you can see yourself as you really are and as you deserve to be seen. And it answers the question, are you loved? Hell yeah. Are you lovable? Oh my God, yes. Are you worthy? So worthy. Are you safe? Step into your money honey's arms and tell me that. And just breathe and relax and feel held. And then you get to sit next to each, side by side and snuggle. So step 4 is you meet your money honey. Step 5, now you get to have a conversation. And you get to look at all those crazy dramatic circumstances that used to freak you out and all of the injuries of your past that you made all sorts of stuff up about just to survive. And you get to look at it as a couple, as if you're watching a show on TV. And you get to hear what your money honey has to say about that. And you get to see how it looks different now. How everything is different before anything changes. And you get to ask whatever is burning on your mind. Should you go with that business partner? Because your money honey may see things that you don't see when you're in fear. So it's a way of getting out of your fear. What is your next step? Always a great question. I would avoid anything that feels like you're putting your money honey, like you're putting your intuition under the hot light of an interrogation. That intuition doesn't work that way. Intuition likes to be seduced. So snuggle and kiss and cuddle. And my very first question when I met my original money honey in March of 2003 was, what do you need from me so that you can be with me the way you want to be with me? I could feel like money wanted to be with me, and I'd been pushing money away for decades and decades because I thought, because I was in a relationship with the monster, now the monster was gone and this cute guy was here who was really in love with me, and I wanted to keep him, and I didn't know how to allow him to be with me. So I asked. That's the great thing again about making money a person, is now you get to ask. You get to kind of it's a work around all of your own neuroses. You can just step
Right.
outside.
Yes.
And you can write it out with your Money Honey automatic writing, or take a walk or swim or dance or just sit, and however works for you. There's no wrong answer here. It's what does your Money Honey like? What do you like? So my question is, what do you need from me to stay with me? And that was when I got my first response. And at that time, he told me that he needed me to love him and to stop treating him like a monster, which seemed perfectly fair.
Mhm.
And it also brought up, oh my God, I was unconsciously doing all these things to push money away that I never even noticed until I suddenly looked at it through those eyes. So I made a promise that next time he brought me a gift, which would look like a client, instead of freaking out when somebody asked me what I charged, as if I was ashamed of this big, snarling, stinky beast money behind me that I didn't want anyone to notice. Instead, it would be like, this is my fee.
Yeah.
Isn't he gorgeous? And I think I got 4 new clients in a day of originally changing my relationship with money. I never gave my backstory. And that is my husband, who I will not be talking to at this moment. But there's a story that goes in with that, even though I put it on do not disturb.
He gets through somehow.
He's a favorite. Yeah, he gets
Yeah.
through. And that's his unique dial tone. At last, my love is here to stay. So where was I? My before picture, Ivy League education, celebrity clients, mountains of testimonials, website marketing, half a dozen certifications, success stories. And I was still struggling to make $100 a month living in Los Angeles. Beat that. No, don't. Yeah. You can tell I'm a little competitive when it comes to failure. So I did it so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So like within 24 hours, 4 new clients, double what I'd ever charged before. That was 20 years ago now. And I have literally made millions of dollars. And bought a house in Southern California, which I never imagined possible. So the 6th step is action. So just for the linear learners like me, number 1, uncover the root cause. 2, personify the root cause into the money monster. Step 3, annihilate the money monster. Step 4, meet your money honey. Step 5, have a conversation with your money honey. And step 6 is action. Take concrete, measurable action. Action is magical. It's what takes it from inner work into practical application. If you want real world physical results, that's like spell casting 101. My mother named me, after a witch, and here I am casting spells. Physical embodiment just makes it real to us. And it sort of lubricates the strange things that happen on external circumstances when we really change, when we make it safe for what we want to come to us. Quick note, husband here. When I was 45 in 2012, I had never been married. I had been single for way too long. And I had been searching for my soulmate since I chased Brian Patterson under the piano on his 5th birthday, and he was the older man. So I'd been looking for a really long time. And I was teaching these classes on financial alchemy, and I would hear myself say these really annoying things like, change happens at the speed of safety, and if something isn't changing, it isn't safe. And I would have that horrible back of the head voice, the one I'm talking about, who would be whispering to me, that sounds like your relationship with love. Shut up.
Yeah.
And it would come back and it would come back. And finally, I was in such a deep, dark, despairing place, because just like you wanted to have a baby, I wanted my soulmate more than anything in the world, my whole life. And it was the one thing I could never have. I finally did exactly what I just walked you through to slay my love monster. I dug up everything that made love dangerous, every betrayal, every heartbreak, over and over and over again, until my love monster was almost as big as planet Earth. That big, that deadly, that terrifying. It was like, whoa, no wonder. No wonder I am single. And I blew it up. I blew it up. I rejected it. I got it out of the way. And I met my husband 2 months later. And not only did I meet my husband, my first husband in my life, but he came up with the idea a year and a half later, first to get married, which I knew was going to happen. I wasn't worried about it. I just thought it would take him 4 years to get there. So I wasn't really ready when he was like, hey, let's get married. And I was leading my money goddess retreat in Bali, and he was taking photos of animals in South Africa. He proposed over Skype. I flew home. He flew home. We eloped before he could change his mind. Bucket list done. Married. Yep. Check. And 2 weeks later, we were in Mexico having a honeymoon, walking by a cathedral, the iconic cathedral in Puerto Vallarta. And he had the idea, hey, let's get married again. And he thought it'd just be a funny goof. We were disgusting and sweaty and filthy and greasy from a massage and walking around and I said, sure, of course. So we walked in and we took off our rings and we came up with new vows, and all these people in the pews started clapping and we kissed, and I was in tears. It just felt so much deeper because we'd been married for 2 weeks. So I knew 2 weeks more of what it meant to be married. And that was when he got the idea, hey, let's get married 100 times in 100 countries. So we're now 26 weddings in.
Wow. That was what I wanted to bring us back to with your bio. Let everyone know that part. That's incredible.
Like the pandemic slowed it down. We've done a lot less traveling. We got married last year in Costa Rica. But the reason I bring that up, besides it's just cool and fun, is that I see this pattern where you have been doing all that you're supposed to be doing. I was taking every dating class. I'm friends with all the biggest dating coaches in Los Angeles. And I was like, what? I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, and I still wasn't meeting my person. And the great thing about being cis hetero is men are not subtle. Like they are neon loud who they are. And if they're not right for you, if you are willing to be at all honest, it's in your face. We women are just so much, I think, more malleable that it's, I place absolutely no moral preference on anybody's orientation or gender identity. I think, be true to you is really the only morality there is. But anyway, I happen to like boys, and boys are just easy.
Easier.
So now I remember the point that I was going to make. I make a point, then I tell stories, and then I forget the point. Hire me for your next event.
Yeah. So. But you're incredibly engaging, and that's why I'm just over here being quiet, because let's just.
Okay, so here's what I've observed, because I literally have coached tens of thousands of people over the years, and I've seen big result after big result after big result. Like I was coaching Leslie in Idaho for 15 minutes. And she made over $1 million that weekend. Coached for Friday afternoon. So here's my theory that I came up with last year. So you're like some of the first people to hear it. When you're putting in all that effort, it's not like it's going to waste. It's building up and building up and building up. But you have this defensive wall of self-protection, and you're not wrong to self-protect. Why wouldn't you want to protect yourself from a monster that causes you pain? But when you make it safe to have what you want, when you can stop protecting yourself from love because now love gets to be safe, When you get to stop protecting yourself from money, because now only money that loves you, shares your values, wants to save the world with you and be your partner and be your biggest fan, is now your relationship with money. And now it's safe. All that past energy, it's like, boom, a lot of stuff can come in really fast because it finally gets to come in. So that is my non-scientific theory, based on anecdotal evidence.
It makes so much sense. And I'm kind of the nerd who likes to look at things, I call it from vibrational mechanics perspective. And for all you Abraham Hicks fans out there, I would describe what Morgana just said as when we haven't slayed our money monster, when we've been allowing those unconscious or subconscious beliefs and experiences, perspectives to take the lead, then we're more often than not in a state of resistance. So all of our efforts can't come in, or they can't, create the results that we want. When you slay the monster, when you create the new relationship and you have the money honey, well, now it's easier to stay in a state of allowing, in a state of alignment. So all of your other efforts, everything's coming together super cohesively.
This is why I love you. Now, I've been in some masterminds with other seven-figure coaches that were really not a good fit for me, but I didn't know. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's see. And got burnt multiple times. And one of the things that let me know that it wasn't a good fit for me was there were a bunch of coaches who would sit around complaining about their clients not doing what they're told, as if that's what coaching is, right. Complaining about clients being resistant. When there's resistance, there is a good reason for the resistance. It's not because you're a bad toddler client having a tantrum. No, it's because something isn't safe. And with a coach like you have the skills to go into the resistance and find out why it's there and what needs to happen so that the resistance and the friction doesn't have to be there, so that alignment happens.
Yeah.
Alignment is never forced.
Right.
Like it is it happens or it's not aligned, which is useful information.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Force is the antithesis of alignment. Yes.
Surrender. Like it just doesn't happen that way.
Right. It just doesn't make there. The vibrational mechanics there is it's nonsensical. But that's why I think there's a lot of people out there nowadays. There weren't a ton of teachers back when I first met you who even broached the subject of money. And if they did, there was no substance behind it. So you were a pioneer in that, right? Still are. And then of course, a lot of people come out of the woodwork, and there are some great ones out there, but the brand, the special brand that you and the approach that you do, and of course you being you, this is why you can't teach other. I don't think anybody could steal this process from you, because they'd have to have that special sauce and that special flavor to be able to do that. But my point is that you spoke to earlier, that we humans get so wrapped up in our neuroses. Our biggest blocks are things that we can't name. They're not in the light of consciousness, and they're automatic. And so we can know that and still not know what to do with that. And by personifying your money monster and your money honey, your relationship with money, it gives you something tangible to work with. That was one of the things I noticed from the get-go, because as intuitive and woo-woo as I am, and I've been brought up, I've also, had an engineer dad, and I'm very pragmatic, and I do like the linear. I love science, all of that. So, at first glance, money monster, money honey, it was kind of like, really? But because I read energy and I read your energy, I instantly trusted you. instantly, didn't even need to know you very well. And that was enough to bring me in. And once I was going through that process, God, it gave me something to work with. And what I want people to know about this, because I want them to buy your workbook, the new edition that's updated and has all of your wisdom and experience that you've gathered in the last 10 years alone, plus everything you had going into it, is it's going to help. What you're going to notice is you will, with your new relationship with money, you're going to see through a different lens. You're going to think different thoughts. You're going to speak different words. You're going to take different actions. And guess what? Those thoughts, words, and actions are going to be more aligned. They're going to be more conscious, and they're going to be more consistent because you're less reactive. You're more empowered. And if you're looking for a tool to help you do that, I mean, first and foremost, I'd hire Morgana if you can get in on her list there. But also, if a great access point is the workbook, and get started on changing your vibrational relationship with money. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's a safe process.
I wrote the book because I fundamentally believe the transformation should be available to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
My coaching and my time can't be available to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but transformation should be. So I pack a lot into it to make it really easy to get results.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see with the old book, just like all the 5-star reviews and all the manifestation stories from people that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And what isn't on Amazon is my client Pam from Florida had her first $250,000 sales month her second year using the book, because it's a journal. It's Financial Alchemy, 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. So half of it is book and content and the process and guiding you through it. And then the other half is really, honestly, my own personal manifestation system to keep you on track, because it's very easy to forget about your money, honey, and get lost in life. And I really wanted to give you my system for manifestation so that you could actually track your results and have a better, easier, more magical experience than you've had before. And that's why people just kept buying it over and over again.
Yeah.
So was there anything? Oh, and also I added links to some videos and things in the book that weren't in the first one. And this is the most time sensitive. So, when the launch is over, it won't matter so much. But the launch is January 23rd, 2023. And there will be fabulous gifts when you buy it on January 23rd, 2023, including by Ms. Nova Whiteman.
Yes. So Morgana was very, very gracious to invite me to be a part of this launch, and I happily obliged. So when you buy her workbook on January 23rd, 2023, then you'll also get my 3-day e-course on how to raise your vibration, but without skipping over the stuff that lowers your vibration and your human, and learning how to work with that rather than against it. So very much in alignment with what you're doing, Morgana. So
there's going to be that. And then a month later on February 28th, I'm going to have a live Q&A laser coaching call, because by February 28th, everybody should have their book everywhere on the planet. This time I'm doing it through Amazon, so it should be available everywhere on the planet. You can open it up, come to the live Q&A, and come with your questions. And the reason I do that is because what I've noticed is that human beings are infinitely creative and resourceful at coming up with new obstacles that I never saw before, and never imagined. And that's what makes it so fun and interesting.
Yes.
I had a woman show up who wanted to know if her money honey could be a werewolf. So I asked her, was he a sexy werewolf? Did he love her? Was he safe? Yeah, so she has a money honey who's a werewolf, but who would know? Right. People get stuck, either the monster or the honey. And so that's why I wanted to have a Q&A, because also, if you come and you have a question and I work with you, that's also going to be working through everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's actually a service to request help, because everybody's going to be getting the transmission at the same time, and it's going to be answering problems for more people than you know. When the book launch is completely over, still come back to buy the book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, wherever it's sold, and then come back to my website, morganarae.com. And this is the sneaky thing that nobody who buys the book who doesn't watch this video knows about. But if you come back to my website and you click on the book tab on the menu, there will open up a page where if you enter your name and your email address and your receipt number, you will get a recording of the February 28th Q&A.
Nice.
So it'll be just like you were there.
Yes. Amazing. I love that. I love all of that. And, the workbook, as an access point, I think is so important because of what you just named. Consistency is key, people. Consistency, maintenance. We can have all the conversations, we can do all the work, but if we're not staying committed to it, just like you would in a partnership, in a relationship, then it's going to suffer and you're going to see different results. So I love that you have your workbook outlined that way. I could not recommend it more. I will be shouting it from the rooftops. And even though I could talk to you all day long and we could cover so many things, in the interest of time, we should probably wrap this up. But I would love to conclude with a brief testimonial of my experience, and I know you know what I'm talking about. You referenced it earlier, and this is just to show you guys how money and love are so connected, and everything's interconnected. So I worked with Morgana to really grow my business and to grow my income and address my relationship with money. But about a year into it, I believe, a little over a year into it, my husband and I were trying to have our first child. And I was still having sessions with Morgana, and came to a session one day just utterly shattered and heartbroken because we'd been trying to have a baby. And that day, my cycle started, and I was like, well, shoot, not pregnant. And again, though, I mean, that's sugarcoating it. I think I came to you in tears. And so not only did she hold the space for me in such a beautiful, loving, safe way and didn't try to talk me out of it or take me to some sort of higher place, what'd she do? She took me through the process that I had been through how many times before, I don't know, but each time it offers something new and different and transformational. And I'm thinking at best, I'll leave this call feeling better, at least hopeful or ready to, pull myself up by my bootstraps maybe. But what happened was when we got to the step 5 of talking to my money honey, she had me ask him what I needed to know about this pregnancy or trying to get pregnant and not being pregnant yet. And I shit you not, she reminded me of this and it's written down in a journal, but God, this was 14 years ago. My baby is a teenager. She's 13. But he didn't say anything. He just had a smile on his face. And I got this image so viscerally, so clearly. And he pointed to my stomach. And it gave like this knowing look. And I mean, I left the call, like we were both kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Literally, I think it was the next day that I found out I actually was pregnant. And it was just one of those weird flukes with starting. It wasn't my cycle, it was just pregnancy. And so I was pregnant, and my crushed human consciousness couldn't, I had every reason to believe that I wasn't. And yet a part of me knew, and this process helped me access that knowing and lowered my resistance. So the pregnancy test could be positive. So that, was you can't make this stuff up. It's so powerful, and there's so many layers to this work, and Morgana just gives us an access point that is really in your face, like money and love, and yet opens you up to a world of alchemical transformation. So thank you for that, Morgana, and everything that you have taught me, shared with me, meant to me, and for sharing this. This is so generous, your time with my peeps. I really appreciate you.
Well, I just love you. I love you. Your story, that coaching we did all those years ago, still one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I remember how deep that pain was. And I'm just so happy to reconnect with you. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me on your show.
My pleasure. So you guys don't walk, run, get her book on January 23rd, the workbook. Dive into it and see what can be possible for you there. You won't regret it. So thank you for watching. And one final question that I ask everybody that I have on. I didn't prep you with this, but I know you have an answer. Um, I like to ask people, what is your number one go-to thing that helps you stay in a higher state of consciousness and alignment more or most of the time?
Um, that changes as I get older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that um, over the last few years, and there's just been a lot of loss and a lot of changed plans, I become more and more and more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the worst thing happens, what is the opportunity here?
Mm-hmm.
Like go into, there is a place for going into that dark monster place. It's not always necessary to go there. It's a good place to start, but it's not always necessary to go there. Sometimes I already have like the relationship with the money honey or the resilience to go, okay, this is the worst thing. And how can I use it? And I've had that, or not use it, that sometimes that feels, you can hear I didn't plan my response at all, but it's just softer than that. Like a really dramatic example is my father died on the second day of my Money Goddess retreat in 2019. I got a text message from my stepmother. And I had had an intuitive hit that made me fly across the country to see him before the retreat when I was going to afterwards. So I got to say my goodbye. Mm. But for this retreat, I had 3 reasons to not do the retreat that had me on pins and needles and thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. I was like watching these reports that the volcano was about to explode and there was civil unrest in Indonesia, and my father was in his final days. So guess what? My father died, the volcano exploded, and there were riots all over Indonesia. And we had the sweetest, happiest, most effortless, magical retreat that I've ever had. Mm. And the best place to be when the worst thing happens is doing what you love. Mm-hmm. And doing your life purpose and being surrounded by people you love. So we live in interesting times. Be very flexible. Yeah. Flexible and strong. Flexibility without strength causes injury. Ask my knees and they'll tell you how I know.
Yes.
But be willing to go, oh, okay, the river wants to go this way. Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Be willing to move with life, not against it, folks. Thank you again, Morgana, and we'll see you guys next time on the next Alignment Happy Hour. Take care.